What's up, Cyber Club members? Welcome back. I hope you had a great weekend and are refreshed and ready to kick off a fantastic week. Here at Cyber Club, we are continuing with our Around the World series, and this week we're heading across the pond for a trip to jolly old England. So grab your Cyber Club passport and let's go. Alright, so first of all, where is England? Well, let's check out our map. Here we are in Ohio, which is a state inside the United States. And England is a country all the way across the Atlantic Ocean on this island here, about 3,600 miles away. Now, I don't know about you, but the first thing I noticed when I saw England on the map is how small it is. I guess because England has had such a big influence on the rest of the world that I thought it would be much bigger. But actually, 40 Englands could fit inside the United States. In fact, it's so tiny that no matter where you are in England, you're never more than 75 miles away from the ocean. Let's take a closer look. England shares this island with the countries Wales to the west and Scotland to the north, and together they make up Great Britain. Right here is Ireland, and Ireland and Great Britain make up the United Kingdom. It's called a kingdom because they're all under the same monarchy, which means England has a queen and sometimes a king, depending on what's called a line of succession, which really just means who was born first. The queen and king come from a royal family, which has a really long history going back over 1,200 years. But more on that in a bit. England itself has a long and fascinating history, including civil wars, invasions, revolutions, conquests, knights, kings, queens, castles, plagues, pirates. It's so interesting. And if you like history, and you should because it can be really fun to learn about, check out England. It's pretty wild. But back to present day. About 54 million people live in England, which is a lot considering the size. Most people live in cities, but London, which is the capital of England, has the biggest population by far with nearly 10 million residents. Did you know that London is around 2,000 years old? That's right, when the Romans conquered England in 44 AD, they founded London and several other cities in England still around today. It's so old that in London it's not uncommon to see ancient buildings next to modern skyscrapers. But England is far from all cities. It also has plenty of beautiful countryside with rolling hills, beautiful beaches, mysterious ruins, crumbling castles, and quaint little towns. So we already know that England has a queen, who is also the Queen of the United Kingdom. But did you know she's also Queen of Australia and a bunch of other commonwealths around the world, including our neighbors to the north, Canada? Sounds important, huh? But guess what? The royal family hasn't really been in charge since the 1600s when Parliament took over those duties. But just because she can't make laws doesn't mean there aren't some amazing perks to being queen. For example, she's the only person in Britain that doesn't need a driver's license to drive. Not only that, she doesn't have to follow the speed limit. Remind me to stay away from her. She's also the only person in the world who doesn't need a passport to fly around the world. She also doesn't have to pay taxes, and she can't be sued or arrested. She also gets to have 2 birthday parties a year. Oh, and she owns all the swans in the River Thames and all the whales and dolphins in the water around the UK. What's that all about? She also has her very own poet and her own private ATM machine. Not to mention her palaces and castles and priceless possessions, including the crown jewels. Oh yeah, the crown jewels. They're the royal family's collection of precious jewelry, trinkets, coins, goblets, swords, scepters, and whatever else you might find in a treasure chest after defeating the end boss. And with a name like Crown Jewels, you can be sure there's some crowns in there too. The most famous one is called the Imperial State Crown, and it's probably worth more than I would make in 100 lifetimes. But I think we can make a pretty convincing copy. So let's head over to the Cyber Art Club room and see what we can do. On second thought, there's probably some kind of law against reproducing the imperial state crown. That, and I'm out of purple construction paper. So we're going to have to make do with a different crown. We'll be using some yellow construction paper, some black construction paper, and some red construction paper, a pair of scissors, a ruler, some glue, and some rhinestones, glitter, stickers, markers, or whatever else you have to decorate it with. First, we need to make this piece here called the band. So use your ruler to measure out an 1.5 inch wide strip. Use your glue to glue the paper together. I'm only using a hot glue gun because it dries so fast, and I don't think you guys want to watch me wait for glue to dry. But you don't need a hot glue gun. Regular glue will work just fine. Okay, take your band and wrap it around your head and mark where it comes together. Then cut off the excess and glue the ends together. Next, you need to measure and cut out 2 pieces of black construction, 1.5 inches wide and 10 inches long. Glue the ends to the inside of your band, like the picture, to create a frame for your crown, and put a dab of glue where the 2 pieces cross. Next, we need to make these parts here called the arches. For these, measure and cut out 6 strips that are 1.5 inches wide and 8 inches long, and cut the ends off to a point. Then glue them inside your band like the picture, but leave the ends loose. To make this part here, which is called the cap, measure and cut out 6 long arched triangles about 3 inches wide and 5 inches long, and glue these between the arch pieces like this. Then bend them to the middle and glue them down. When you're done, do the same with the arches. For the final piece, fold a piece of yellow paper in half and draw a cross or whatever shape you want to top your crown, but make sure to leave a tab on the bottom. Cut it out and glue the 2 sides together, but not the tab. Pull the tabs out and use those to glue it to the crown. Now for the fun part. What would a crown be without the jewels? So use your gems and glitter and stickers and whatever else you got to bling out your crown. Wow, that is a crown fit for a queen. I bet if we put that in the vault with all the other crown jewels, nobody would be able to tell it apart. What do you guys think? Hey, by the way, if you made a crown, I would love to see it. So let your club director know so that we can feature you on the next Cyber Club episode. After all that work, I'm getting pretty hungry, and I've got just the thing to fit in with our England theme. Let's have a tea party. Did you know that the people in England love tea? They love it so much that they created an entire meal around it called high tea. High tea happens in the afternoon and usually involves some kind of little sandwiches, sweets and scones, and of course tea. So while I get the ingredients together, check out these fun facts about England. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth is distantly related to Vlad the Impaler, aka Dracula? Well, that's creepy. This is Stonehenge in Wildshire, England. It's over 5,000 years old, and nobody really knows why it's there or who built it. Here's England's flag. Most people think that this is England's flag, but actually, this is the flag of the whole United Kingdom. And just like Ireland and Scotland and Wales each have their own individual flags, England does too. Can you believe the Brits invented speeding tickets? The very first speeding ticket was issued to a driver named Walter Arnold in Kent in 1896, after he was caught going 4 times the speed limit. But back then the speed limit was only 2 miles per hour, so he was actually only going 8 miles an hour. England's favorite sport is football, but not football as we know it. In England, football is soccer, And since English football is older than American football, I think they have dibs on the name. There's an old manor in Dorchester, England called the Anthelhampton House, which is reportedly haunted by the ghost of an ape. Speaking of animals, there are more chickens in England than people. Let's hope they don't get together and take revenge for the medieval times. Okay, I think I've got everything together, so let's head over to Cooking Club for tea. On today's menu are white chocolate and cranberry scones, cream cheese and cucumber tea sandwiches, and of course tea. But first let's start with our scones. We will need 1 3/4 cup flour, 1/4 cup sugar, 2½ teaspoons of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 5 teaspoons of butter cut into pieces, 6 tablespoons of half and half, 1 beaten egg, 1/2 cup of cranberries, and 1/2 cup of white chocolate chips. Now I know it sounds like a lot, but most of it is stuff you probably already have. The only thing I had to buy were the cranberries, half and half, and chocolate chips. Set your oven to 360 degrees and make sure to wash your hands. If you have a stick of butter, it shows you on the package how much 5 tablespoons is, so cut out 5 tablespoons and unwrap it. You want it to be cold so that you can chop it up into pieces. This is important because it's the pieces that make the little air pockets in our scones. In a large mixing bowl, add your flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, butter pieces, and mix it well. Then add your half and half, beaten egg, white chocolate chips, and dried cranberries. Mix that together until it sticks together, and then put some flour down so that your dough doesn't stick, and dump it out. Now you're going to knead the dough for 2 minutes. But it's kind of like playing with Play-Doh, so just make sure you knead it really well. After you're done, shape it into a circle about 1/2 inch thick and cut it into 8 pieces like a pizza. Then put those pieces on a buttered baking sheet and stick them in the oven for 14 minutes. Clean up your mess, and let's work on our sandwiches. There are many different types of tea sandwiches, but one of the most popular is made with cucumbers. I know I don't really think about putting cucumbers on bread, but hey, let's give it a try. So first you want to cut the crust off your bread. I'm going to throw my crust out for the birds. Then you want to spread your pieces with cream cheese. Leave it out of the fridge for a little bit to soften up, and that'll make this step much easier. Then just layer on your cucumber slices. Add a little salt and pepper, and that's it. Pop on the tops, cut them in half. Just in time for our scones to be done. Of course, no tea party would be complete without the tea. This was a lot of fun. Everything was delicious, even the cucumber sandwiches. So the next time you and your friends are together and you can't think of what to do, why not throw a tea party? And if you do, make sure to let us know how it went. Alright guys, that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed our little trip across the pond. And if you have a suggestion for where in the world you'd like to go next, make sure to let us know. In the meantime, have a great week, and I will see you next time.